Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jai Shivam Subhadra Jaya. Astatara Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. Jai Shivam Subhadra Jaya. Stowed as the Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Jaya Prabhupada. Go Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning, and maybe tomorrow morning, we'll do something a bit different. And these classes will be especially for the older devotees, so the younger devotees will bear with it, because we're going to read from Sri Caitanya-Caritamrita, Madhya-Lila chapter 23, love of Krishna, life's ultimate goal. So what we may hear could be considered to be beyond the reach at this point, but it's always good to know what the destination is, what is our goal. Otherwise, we may run the risk of thinking that bhakti is just about rituals and rules, and we have lost sight, or we're not clear about what is the actual aim, what's the destination. Just like I remember when I saw Srila Prabhupada in Atlanta in 1975. And he was having a question and answer session, temple room full of devotees. And one of my godbrothers, who was a Sankirtan devotee, full-time Sankirtan devotee like me, obviously wanted Prabhupada to answer in a certain way. So he asked Prabhupada, what pleases you the most? And he was ready to hear. He thought he was going to get the answer. Story books. But Prabhupada simply answered, if you love Krishna. So that may sound simplistic to you, but it's infinitely deep, because love of Krishna is infinitely deep. And what has attracted us to bhakti are the rays, whatever rays we can perceive of that ultimate goal. Even in the neophyte stage of bhakti, there is some taste. And as you progress in the stages of bhakti, that taste increases and solidifies. But everything is ultimately based on love of Krishna. But love of Krishna is so pure and so exalted that we don't think that we are qualified for it. We don't think that. Sometimes we think we shouldn't even think about it. It's like we could consider it, it's like 3-year-olds talking about what's it like to be married. It seems so far beyond us, but we need to hear about it. And that way, in our heart, the aspirations develop. Because everyone is interested in love. The old saying, love makes the world go round. Better put, lust makes the world go round. But as you read Caitanya-Caritamrita, you find out that you know very little about love. You can just remember Lord Chaitanya saying, if you see tears in my eyes when I'm chanting Hare Krishna, you should know it's just a show. Because if I actually loved Krishna, I would have died long ago from separation. The fact that I'm still alive shows I have no love for Krishna. I'm maintaining this body, maintaining my existence, even though I have no love for Krishna. So yes, love of Krishna, life's ultimate goal, is so exalted. Yet we should hear about it. That's why Sri Caitanya-Caritamrita is so important. We're hearing from the chapter 23 of Madhya-Lila, which is also known as one of the two chapters known as Sanatana-Siksha. Lord Chaitanya is giving Siksha, instruction, to Sanatana Swami, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is summarizing in his Sri Caitanya-Caritamrita. A lot of this information you'll find in Nectar of Devotion, the summary study, Srila Prabhupada's summary study. For me, I find it especially relishable, even though the information may be present in other texts, like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I find it especially relishable to hear it from Srila Prabhupada in Nectar of Devotion and Caitanya-Caritamrita. Caitanya-Caritamrita gives me Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking. So for me, I find that especially relishable. Some would say the information given in this chapter of Caitanya-Caritamrita is a summary. Doesn't have all the details, but I relish not simply the information, but I relish being in contact with the speakers, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada. In other words, we don't simply read for information, We read for association. So we'll recite text 1. Is that anywhere or not? Well, we have no board here or anything like that. Recite from what? Okay, it's electronic age. Everyone has a device, but not everyone here has a device. So it's Madhya-Lila, chapter 23, text 1. And we'll probably move ahead to some verses. Chiradatam nijakuptavitam Swapremanam ritam achyudara Apamaram yogitatara gora Krishna janebhyastamaham prabhaje Charadadatam nijaguptavitam Supremanam ritam achyudara Apamaram yogitatara gora Krishna janebhyastamaham prabhaje Charadadatam nijaguptavitam Supremanam ritam achyudara Apamaram yogitatara gora Krishna janebhyastamaham prabhaje Vaishnavis. Chirat for a long time. Adaktam, not given. Nijaguptavitam, his own personal confidential property. Suprema, of love for him. Nama, of the holy name. Amritam, the ambrosia. Ati Uttara, most munificent. Apamaram, even down to the lowest of men. Ya, one who, Vitatara, distributed, Gaura, Sri Gaura Sundara, Krishna, Lord Krishna himself, Janebhya, to the people in general, to him, Aham, I, Prapadye, offer obeisances. Translation, the most munificent Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Gaura Krishna, distributed to everyone, even the lowest of men, his own confidential treasure in the form of the nectar of love of himself and the holy name. This was never given to the people at any time before. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This was never given to people at any time before. That means not in this day of Brahma, not during the recent 8,640,000,000 years. Once in every day of Brahma, as you know, Krishna comes at the end of the Dwarpa Yuga. That's around midday for Lord Brahma. And then, after Krishna comes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes. So never given to the people at any time before. Means in recent memory. Can you remember more than 8 billion years in the past? The most magnificent Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like every day when you offer your food, Namo Mahabharanyaya, Krishna Prema Pradaya. The most munificent avatar. Of course, as I often explain, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually not an avatar. Generally and loosely we say like that, the golden avatar, the most magnificent avatar, Sabha avatar, Sarshiromani, Kevalananda, the essence of all avatars. But actually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Swami Bhagavan, the original personality of Godhead, just as Krishna is. They're both the Supreme Personality of Godhead with different purposes. It's hard for you to imagine one person being two persons with different purposes. But that is the nature of Godhead. As Jiva Goswami says, unless you can understand that, at least understand that everything about the Supreme Absolute Truth is inconceivable, you won't have any way to assimilate any understanding. The understanding begins not so much with who made the mountains, who made the seas, but that the cause of all causes, Janmadiya Sutta, that from which everything emanates, is inconceivable. Therefore, Krishna is the original personality of God, the source of all the avatars, just as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. And as you may know, they both have their abodes in the topmost planet of the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. They're side by side, so to speak, although there's no time or space constrictions in the spiritual world. So this is a little difficult for some to understand. Who is it? Who is the ultimate cause of all causes? Is it Krishna or is it Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? But you see, as I often explain, when Krishna wants to experience love in separation from himself, and you should meditate on that. How could you ever experience what it's like to love you and feel separation from you? You can't do that. But Krishna can do that. Krishna is wondering, what's it like? What my devotees feel in separation from me. I can't understand it as Krishna. I have to become a devotee. I want to experience what it's like to feel love for me and separation from me, especially. So Krishna appears as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to be the supreme enjoyer, because he doesn't do that as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's the Nyasi Shiromani, he's the precious jewel of the sannyasis. Renunciation, detachment. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to be the supreme enjoyer, he appears as Krishna. So that's why we read in the verse, Gaura Krishna, the combination of Gaura, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Krishna. They both are Swayam Bhagavan, the original personality of Godhead. And what does that Gaura Krishna do? Distributes to everyone, even the lowest of persons. And what's he distributing? So first meditate on the distribution to everyone. While Lord Chaitanya was present, he not only inundated the earth planet, but also persons from other planets were coming to visit him, disguised as human beings. Even demigods were coming, disguised as human beings, to participate in the flood of Sankirtan, the flood of chanting of the holy name, the flood of love of Krishna, let loose by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what's he distributing? First you meditate on that he is distributing, he's giving it all away. You know what it's like when you try to give of yourself? You get exhausted after probably talking to one person. Or have a few children and you give everything to your children, and then you become in your 40s or 50s and I've given it all, I'm tired. Now I'm an empty nester, how nice. Like my mother tells me, you're my firstborn, I put everything I had into you. So we know what it's like to try to give, try to distribute. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives limitlessly, unlimitedly. And what is he giving? So you have to meditate on that point, that there's no limitation to his giving. He's giving Nijagupta Vita, his own personal, confidential property. You would never do that. Distribute your confidential secrets, distribute your confidential information about you. You would never just get that here, there, and everywhere. But that's what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing. He's busting open Krishna's storehouse of secrets and giving it to anyone and everyone. We have to really think about how inconceivably extraordinary this is. And thinking about it will gradually produce in you spiritual symptoms of developing love of Krishna by thinking about this. I often tell the story of seeing Srila Prabhupada in Atlanta, giving his shortest lecture ever. He sang the song Paramakaruna, how The two lords, Chaitanya and Tanya, are inconceivably merciful. He sang that before class instead of Jai Radha Madhava. Because in Atlanta at that time, they only had these big ornithines. And he began his class talking about how Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda are so kind. They're giving everything away. No one knows Krishna, but still they're giving out love of Krishna. How can you love someone if you don't know them? And then he said, just take shelter of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, be happy. His voice cracked. I saw tears shoot from his eyes like shot from a syringe. And he ended the class after a minute and a half and just quietly went to his quarters and never talked about it. So think about it. How do you taste love of someone that you don't know? But this is what Mahaprabhu does. He gives you the taste of love of Krishna, even though you don't know Krishna. He's Krishna giving the confidential taste of himself, his own personal confidential property. Things ordinarily you shouldn't hear about, things you shouldn't know about, especially in the age of Kali, the age of darkness. Although we think there's so much progress these days, but it's crazy. Economically, politically, environmentally, it's crazy. So, who is it that is qualified? Who is it that's worthy to hear these confidential secrets? But Gauda Krishna distributes that. In that confidential treasury is the nectar of love of himself and the holy name. The two are the same. As Caitanya-Caritamrita says, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. You're looking for Krishna's presence in Kali Yuga? He's there as Nama Rupa. He's there in the form of his name. And there's no difference between Krishna and his name. And we'll speak a little more briefly at the initiation ceremony about how so much, sometimes it's said 90% of our spiritual advancement is depending on how seriously and attentively we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Because the more we seriously and attentively chant, the more we realize that Krishna is the same as his name. So the nectar is in the form of love of himself and the holy name. So think about it. Can you distribute love of yourself to people who don't know you? This is inconceivable. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has that portfolio, a very intimate, confidential portfolio, because he's distributing confidential information and experiences of love of Krishna. So Kaviraj Goswami says, I therefore, for all these reasons, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. He's documenting why he's offering such obeisances. And in this chapter, he's going to give you a summary of applied spiritual technology at its peak, love of Krishna. More precisely, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to give Sanatana Swami the summary. And you'll see expanded versions of that summary in the books by Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami. So this preamble, so to speak, is increasing our appetite. What is it? What's that confidential treasury given even to the lowest of persons? So we'll go on. Text 2. Jaya Jaya Gaura Chandra Jaya Nitan. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Acharya. And all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You see, in Caitanya-Caritamrita, Kaviraj Swami not only asks for the blessings of all the Vaishnavas present at that time, he's also asking for the blessings of his readers. So, all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now we hear from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's asking, because he's speaking to Sanatan, he's giving instruction, Siksha. Now hear, O Sanatan, about the result of devotional service, which is love of Godhead, life's ultimate goal. One who hears this description will be enlightened in the transcendental mellows of devotional service. Mellows is a difficult word in English because it's difficult to render from Sanskrit to English, the word rasa. You can consider it to be flavors, very entrancing flavors. So we spoke about how love of Krishna can see, it is so far beyond us, so then why bother to hear about it? Because it does happen. And those who are dedicating their life in bhakti should know what they're moving toward, even though it'll take some time generally. Even if it takes another lifetime, so what? The goal is so inconceivably exalted. So hearing this information motivates you. Okay, if not in this lifetime, the next lifetime. And Krishna, as the super soul, the Paramatma in your heart, notices such aspirations. Oh, when will that day be mine? I'd like to taste that. And so gradually, Krishna makes arrangements to fulfill your desires. You think, oh, it's taking so long, 40, 50 years, it's taking my whole life. How long is your life? A spot in time, not even a speck in time. It's amazing how the illusory energy enters our life and just dominates us, fills us with so many unimportant goals. You gotta do this, you gotta do that. This must be done, that must be done. Before you know it, your whole life is wasted, it's gone. You don't feel that when you're a teenager, certainly. You don't feel it when you're age, right? You're not thinking, oh, my life is very short, I must use it in the best way. You tell her, but she's thinking, oh, I have so much time. When you're very young, the day seems to move so slowly. Oh, when will evening come? Especially on a hot summer day, the day seems to just drag on when you're young. But as you get older, your perception of time, which is in the mind, starts to speed up. And then when you're in your 60s and 70s, like that, and you should be dominated by the thought when you're in your 60s and 70s, I can go any moment. By hearing about the ultimate goal, we can rise above all these false goals that have been implanted in us. I was speaking last night about how so much has been downloaded into us since childhood, about how to be happy, what to do in life, the goals, the aspirations. But by hearing about life's ultimate goal, we start to be able to set our priorities properly. And it's very interesting, the technology of love of Krishna, the technological terms, the classifications, 3 of these and 5 of that. Very interesting. People want love most of all. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was presenting all the technology of applied love of Krishna. At this stage, you'll feel this. At that stage, you'll feel that. Here are the mental symptoms. Here are the physical symptoms. Very interesting. Just like we have our Kala Swarupa, he's studying various cosmological intricacies of physics. So there's terminology for everything. Then you're shocked to find out that there's terminology and technology to love of Krishna. We would ordinarily think, well, it's religion, and religion is mainly sentiment and belief. But no, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining the details of applied love of Krishna. Its various manifestations, its various stages, its various levels. It's practically like an engineering presentation. So at first you may read these sections, if you do read Caitanya-Caritamrita at all, and you just pass over it very quickly. I can't remember all those Sanskrit terms. Anubhava, Vyabhichari Bhava, this, that. But as you become older in bhakti, those terminologies become very precious to you. And gradually it starts to click. Maybe you read Nectar of Devotion, and the second half of Nectar of Devotion, you just say, ooh. Way out there. But as you mature in bhakti, those chapters in Nectar of Devotion become so precious to you. Those chapters in Caitanya-Caritamrita become so precious to you. Even though they're so exalted, and you could say they're so far beyond us, but that's where bhakti is leading to. So you might as well understand what is the ultimate goal. Out of humility, certainly you would admit, I'm not there, but at least you know where to go. At least you know what the destination is. Otherwise, you can get this feeling in your devotional life that I'm driving the car on the highway, but where am I going? I'm paying attention to how I'm driving. I'm making sure I don't speed. I'm making sure I stay in the right lane. I make sure the car's in shape. But where am I going? But I'm very fastidious. I'm very fanatical about how I'm driving and the condition of my car. I don't know where I'm going. So even though where you're going may be 1,000 miles away, at least you know where you're going. And so Mahaprabhu is giving you the signposts along the way. Just like you're driving on the highway, 500 miles more to Erie, Pennsylvania, or Cleveland, or whatever, 100 miles, so on and so forth. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is announcing to Sanatana Swami, I'm going to explain to you about the result of devotional service, prayojana. That Sanskrit term means the ultimate goal, as you know. And Pandava in his courses in Mayapur, they divide everything into Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, right? Understanding Krishna, what you need to do, devotional service, abhideya, acting according to that knowledge, applying it, and then prayojana, the ultimate goal. You can apply these categories to your life. What am I understanding? What do I understand about who I am and what I should be doing? Of course, in bhakti, sambandha means understanding that you are Krishna's eternal servant and your need to engage in devotional service. And then abhideya. How do I do it? What should I be doing? And then prayojana. If you're doing correctly, here's the goal, here's the fruit, life's ultimate goal. So that's why Lord Chaitanya says, one who hears this description will be enlightened in the transcendental mellows, flavors of devotional service. I wonder how many you consider that devotional service has flavors. It's not about just, well, I like playing music, so therefore, when I play the harmonium, I get certain satisfaction in indulging my musical propensity. Or I like organizing, so when I organize, I get a certain flavor. That's actually not what is meant here. What's meant here is flavors in terms of relationships with Krishna, personal loving relationships, especially as servant, friend, parent, or senior, or lover. So Lord Chaitanya is saying you'll be enlightened in the taste of loving relationships with Krishna. So we'll go on to text 4. Krishna Rati Kata Boyle, Prem Abhitam, Krishna Bhakti Rasa A Stai Bhavanam. When affection for Krishna becomes deeper, one attains love of Godhead in devotional service. Such a position is called Sthai Bhava, permanent enjoyment of the mellows of devotional service to Krishna. So our bhakti process is all about deepening our affection for Krishna. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tesam satayuktana vajatam priti purvaka dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. To those who are constantly doing service with priti, with affection, not begrudgingly or officially or ritualistically, but with affection, you're serving Krishna. I personally get an intelligence how to come to me. So we should make sure that we're aspiring to do service with affection. I've been appointed to do this task for Krishna. Let me do it with utmost expertise and attention. Let me put my heart into it. Your heart has to go somewhere. Your heart is meant to be applied and invested in devotional service. It's always interesting to ask devotees, what's your heart into in terms of service? Do you have a service that you're really heart invested in? Or are you just going through the motions? Just like here at Gitanagri, I can see some of you have put heart and soul into your service. Others are kind of, yeah, well, what do you want me to do? Yeah, okay. You may start out like that, but sooner or later, if you want to reap the results of bhakti, you have to put your heart into your service. And then Krishna reciprocates with you. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya is saying, when affection for Krishna becomes deeper, we're talking about first, let's have some affection. Not simply that my name is on the roster, okay, yeah, that's what you want me to do. Yeah, right, okay. In Australia, they have a phrase when there's a list at the temple of duties that devotees should do. And sometimes immature devotees say, oh, I'm tired of just being roster fodder. They don't understand the privilege of bhakti, the miracle of devotional service. If you understood them, that it's miraculous you're engaged in devotional service, anything, then you wouldn't consider yourself to just be some automaton, a roster fodder. You would consider, I have the chance to do something for Krishna. After many births in this, I have this chance. Once you move out of the mechanical attitude towards your service, toward your chanting, towards your hearing about Krishna, reading about Krishna, then you can start thinking about affection. Everyone likes affection, affectionate dealings. Can we believe that there's affection in bhakti? That's why what devotees do with their heart is so important. Because bhakti actually is an affair of the heart. Intelligently executed. It's the science of a loving heart. And that loving heart reveals itself or expresses itself in devotional service. So it's not about just having the warm fuzzies and there's no service. The expression of an affectionate heart is service. All the activities meant for Krishna's pleasure. And of course, service also means, without a doubt, caring for devotees. Just like I was feeling well a couple of days ago and was very exhausted. And Sarvatma Prabhu and his wife Divyananda, they were noticing Sarvatma Prabhu suggested, I think you need some rest. Otherwise, I would just go on and on and on and not think about it. And then he brought me his collection of snacks. It's really revitalized me. I don't know if it was the snacks in themselves or the affection. Maybe both. So we're all affectionate, we're affection driven. Unless we find that in bhakti, we're going to look for it in the material world and get beat on our head in the process. Frustrated. All right. Tomorrow we'll talk about bhava, the preliminary stage of love of Krishna. For now, any questions? Yes? You have to speak louder, please.
Thank you for the class. You mentioned in Nectar of Devotion and in Caitanya-Caritamrita, there's instructions for every step, progress towards the ultimate goal. And sometimes, what do you do when sometimes you're reading this and you're like, oh my God, you feel discouraged, and it's just so far advanced, and you just almost feel like, I don't know what to do.
That's nice that you feel humiliated, but at the same time, you should let the information inspire you to move forward. Don't let your lamentation slow you down. Let the lamentation accelerate your progress. In your lamentation, oh, I'm so far from that standard, you beg Krishna to please aid you in your spiritual progress. One of the symptoms of preliminary love of Krishna is hope against hope. Ashabandha. I have no qualification. I have no attraction for hearing and chanting about Krishna. I've got no background of pious activities. Still, I'm hoping against hope. One day, I can have affection for Krishna. That kind of expression is authorized. Lord Chaitanya himself says, I don't have any love for Krishna, and he's the perfect exemplar of loving Krishna. Just one drop of love of Krishna, one drop of the ocean of love of Krishna can drown the whole universe. So you only need is one drop. Not only you, but the whole universe drowns. Anything else? Yes.
Krishna, thank you for your class. I have 2 questions.
Try one.
I asked the question about your relationship with the deities, and there may be some feeling to the deities. How do we understand that? Is that
How do you understand it? Well, the deities are not stone or metal. So it's good that you feel some feelings. They're persons. And as you advance more, you'll understand them more. There's a science to the arch of Vigraha, the deity. We're not just bowing down before statues, you know? Let's see. Kalasarupa Prabhu is doing his PhD in physics, and yet he comes and bows down before some stone statue. Of course, his fellow PhD people will never understand it. But there's a whole science behind it. That's why now it's at the printers. The BBT has printed a book by His Holiness Krishna Swami, who did his PhD at Oxford in Vaishnava deity worship. And it explains deity worship to the Western uninformed audience. It explains deity worship. Because I've had the experience so many times. People who grow up outside of India, they walk into a temple and see these statues on the altar and people bowing down. The statues are dressed, the statues get food, they have no idea. And if they have a Christian background, as often they do in the USA, ooh, idols, graven images. So I had Krishna Swami write a small book, 120 pages, explaining in dialogue form what are deities and why we worship them. I think even Linda asked me that question. What about this? The information is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's scattered in different places. So this will be a compendium that you can just give to someone and say, just read this. It's 120 pages. Otherwise, actually these days, even persons from India don't know the science behind it. They just bow down ritualistically. Yeah, this is what my grandparents had done, okay? You put something in the hundi, you bow down. Maybe you'll get some blessings, you never know. Maybe your wealth will increase. Maybe you get a new car. Worth a try. So yes, just by respecting the deity, you start to develop an understanding. But if people are just coming in and out, seeing for the first time and then leaving, they don't know what to make of it. You're from Vietnam, you have no tradition of deity worship. But because you're chanting Hare Krishna, taking prasad, and associating with devotees, it's becoming natural for you. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. Rama Rama, Hare.